Question of the day, guys. Why is Lennox Lewis so hard on Anthony Joshua? Why does he give him such a hard time? Let me know in the comment section below of this video. Why do you guys think he gives him such a hard time? One thing I notice when it comes to Lennox Lewis is very critical on Anthony Joshua, on the guys he fights, on his position. He's very critical on Eddie Hearn. And he it seems like he tends to blame Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn for not facing the best guys. That's what it seems to be like when it comes to the Deontay Wilder guy. It seems like he's always putting the blame on Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn. It's like, okay, the reason AJ is not facing Deontay Wilder is because AJ, right? The reason AJ is not facing Tyson Fury is because AJ, right? He seems to put the blame on these guys all the time. I never see him putting the blame on Deontay Wilder. I never see him do it. Every tweet or every Instagram post or every little interview I see of him, he always puts the blame on Anthony Joshua. It's to a point where now, Eddie Hearn is responding to him. Obviously, it probably annoys Eddie Hearn because he doesn't seem to want to listen to Eddie Hearn's side of the story. So here's my thoughts of that. I actually think that, you have to keep in mind, the last undisputed champion was Lennox Lewis, right? Not only that, he was also the last best guy. He was the last undisputed British heavyweight. So he was like the last British heavyweight who was considered the baddest British heavyweight on the planet, right? Basically is what I'm trying to say, right? Until Anthony Joshua came along, because since Lennox Lewis retired, what other British heavyweight has come along to take over his spot? The only guys I could think of is both Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. I mean, unless you count David Haye. But in my opinion, David Haye was never a great heavyweight. He did good things at cruiserweight. He became unified at cruiserweight. He never became unified at heavyweight. He won the WBA heavyweight championship of the world, but he never became unified at heavyweight. And he really never had a great resume at heavyweight, David Haye. So, and of course he lost to Vladimir Klitschko, so I don't really count him. And then of course you had other heavyweights like, the Danny Williams, the Ollie Harrisons. But since Lennox Lewis retired, let's be honest, like the best British heavyweights that have come along since then, in my opinion, are guys like obviously Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, even Dillian White. So I think this is why he puts a lot of pressure. I think he puts a lot of pressure on them because they're comparing Anthony Joshua to him, right? They're saying he's the next best British heavyweight on the planet, as what they used to do to Lennox Lewis. And obviously he has 3 out of the 4 major belts. If he beats Deontay Wilder, he'll become undisputed. So I think this is why he is very critical on Anthony Joshua, because he's like, all right, this is the guy that they say is the next Lennox Lewis. He's as good as me, right? He's the best British heavyweight. So he's trying to pick at anything that Eddie Hearn or Anthony Joshua does. In my opinion, I would ask Lennox Lewis the question, what about Deontay Wilder? What about Deontay Wilder? Look at him. What about his resume? You're critiquing Anthony Joshua, saying he's fighting this dude. He's fighting unknown Jarrell Miller with 23 fights under his belt. But what was Deontay Wilder doing at 23 fights? What was he doing? He was fighting guys with 10 losses on the records that no one ever heard of. What did Deontay Wilder do when he won his WBC belt? In his very first title defense, he defended it against a guy I never heard of. Against a guy named Eric Molina, right? He defended his first championship belts against unknown guys. Why weren't you criticizing him back then? Why weren't you going around saying, why is Deontay Wilder defending the WBC champion against Johan Duhaupas? Why weren't you critical about, for years, Deontay Wilder was supposed to fight Vladimir Klitschko. Why wasn't Lennox Lewis critical on Deontay Wilder not facing Vladimir Klitschko? But he's so critical on Anthony Joshua. Every career move that Anthony Joshua does, Lennox Lewis has to go basically make a tweet about it. He has to write a tweet about it. He has to tweet something about it. He has to tell you his opinion about it. He basically has to tell you his opinion about how much this is a horrible move for Anthony Joshua. I mean, I'm just waiting to see when Lennox Lewis is finally gonna give Anthony Joshua credit. Like when Anthony Joshua beats, if he goes on to beat Deontay Wilder, become undisputed, will Lennox Lewis finally give him credit? He'll probably say something like, "No, well, he didn't fight Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is the real lineal champion, right?" I just feel like Lennox Lewis is very hard on Anthony Joshua for no reason. Anthony Joshua is doing what he's supposed to be doing. He's a champion. He has less than 25 fights. He's defending his belts. He went out there. He unified. He's doing what he was supposed to do. He's doing what Deontay Wilder never did. You know? Yet he's way more harder, and he gives the Anthony Joshua way more of a tougher time than he gives Deontay Wilder. You notice that he gives Deontay Wilder way more passes than he gives what's his name? Anthony Joshua. So I think he should be looking at Deontay Wilder, you know? Keep it fair. Don't just bash and berate someone like Anthony Joshua, you know? Like I said, I think that the reason he's doing that is because AJ is British like himself, so he puts him on a high pedestal, but be fair and also critique Mr. Deontay Wilder, Mr. Lennox Lewis. And that's all I have to say, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm out. Bye-bye. Subscribe and I'm out.